What's up, y'all? It's your girl Cornelia back with another episode of Black News, a podcast where we break down current events, hot topics, and local stories involving Black people. Now let's get into it. So this week, it was this weekend. I said this last week, and y'all, it ain't even, it's just March. Okay. It feel like we done been through 7 years. Okay. 12 years a slave. No, hey, it's only March, but stuff keeps happening, and it is our duty to stay abreast. No real major changes worth reporting, except the fact that now we ain't got no allies. Oh, we ain't got no allies. Yeah, they showed their whole ass in front of the president of Ukraine. Don't nobody like it. We're most hated. It's guys. Hey, guys. So, it is what it is. I also, as mentioned, set up a Substack. I was supposed to work on it this weekend. I just didn't have time. I was out socializing. Hey, I was out here kicking it. But I will be working to get my Substack up and running and figuring out what it is that I want to do with it. Because, I don't know, I'm taking this really seriously. I want to form my Substack into something that I like, right? I don't want to just do something else just to be doing something. I don't want to just have another endeavor just to have it. I really want it to mean something, and I want it to mean something to the extent of that drives me to want to create and post on it. Because, and y'all should know this about me by now. I'm not doing nothing. I'm no longer doing things that I don't want to do. I used to early in my life, in my career, especially as my entertainment career, where you feel like you just got to do stuff just because there's this industry pressure or expectation that you have to do all of the things. I don't do that anymore. If I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. So I am trying to think of ways where this is fun and engaging and informative and in a space for us and for culture, for Black culture, because that is very, very, very important. And that'll be more important now than ever. So I'm working on it. If you feel free to subscribe to it, you can just find me at Cornelia Stradwick or just Cornelia on Substack. Y'all, I'm the only one. I don't think the mother Cornelius done got on there. Cause they be them young Cornelius be beating me to stuff. It's like a group of them now where if there's a new platform, like a social platform or anything, I got to run to the platform to make sure the other Cornelius ain't scoop up my name. I'm not even at Cornelia on TikTok. I had to make my TikTok name at Cornelia on TikTok because the other Cornelia done stole my name before I got a hold of it, y'all. But if y'all want to follow me on Substack now, go ahead. But I will make a formal announcement when I at least start posting, because I'm not going to pressure myself to have it all done and jazzy and cute at the same time. I understand, and I'm totally fine with building it and building it out and making it cute as I go on. So that is that. But I want to switch gears real quick because the topics that we talking about, it was this some dark topics, and I'm not saying, you'll know what I mean when I get into it. Certain people can interpret dark to mean different things, but the one we starting off with, it is very heavy, and it did affect someone's life, particularly and specifically. I'm talking about, there was a young man who passed away at Southern University, which is an HBCU, allegedly. It was involving hazing due to one of the fraternities within the Divine Nine, Omega Psi-Phi. And I say allegedly because the investigation hasn't come out. There ain't been no autopsy. This is a young man, a young person, a college student. So I want to be very careful talking about this and how I speak about this, with keeping in mind that I do not have the facts. None of us do. and we want to be respectful to the situation, and again to that young man, because I can't imagine what his family and his friends are going through, and with I just can't imagine. And but I want to have an overall discussion because people are having a big large discussion about fraternities and sororities. Okay, so let me just read the information first so we can all have the same come in on the same within the same place, right? Within the story. So this is per Blavity, and it reads: a 20-year-old student at Southern University in Louisiana died after attending a fraternity event. His name was Caleb Wilson. Again, he died on Friday morning. Law enforcement said that the junior participated in a ritual with members of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, and it was at an off-campus location at a particular park. He collapsed while pledges stood in line as a part of the initiation process. Wilson was taken to a Baton Rouge hospital where he was pronounced dead at 3:15 a.m. on Friday. The cause of death has yet to be determined. He was also in the band at Southern University. He was a part of the Human Jukebox Marching Band. It sounds like he was a very great and very bright, smart young man, a good student, had lots of friends and people who really loved him. His father is Sergeant Corey Wilson, and people kept mentioning that, like his father is a member of law enforcement. Now, Omega Psi Phi released a statement which reads: it is with profound sorrow that we extend our condolences on the passing of Caleb Wilson. His loss is deeply felt, and our hearts go out to his family, friends, and all who were touched by him. Caleb was more than a beloved son, grandson, brother, nephew, and cousin. He was a scholar, an exceptional member of the Southern University Marching Band, and a passionate and dedicated leader in student life. We have been informed that the local authorities have launched an investigation into this tragic incident, and we fully support their efforts to seek the truth. Currently, our foremost priority is standing in unwavering support of Caleb's family. We have extended ourselves to them and are ready to assist in any way possible during this difficult time. We recognize that many of you may have questions, and we are actively working to gather accurate information. In the meantime, we ask for your patience and prayers in solidarity as we honor Caleb's memory and support those grieving his loss. This is going to be a very difficult situation on all levels, right? It's going to be difficult on a student level. Just on campus, I'm sure it is feeling very dark and sad because, regardless of how a student passes away, it hit the campus hard. It's hit. I can only imagine what these young people are going through. But then you also have different layers within this where, personally, I don't know how this is going to be handled, and I can't assume. We can just have a conversation about it. And this is very tricky for me to discuss because, as you know, I am a member of an organization. Now, I ain't financially active right now, baby. The dues ain't paid. Okay. So I haven't gotten any official email from my sorority about the stance on this particular incident. I have not talked to any members of my organization about this. I have only read the same thing that y'all read and have the same information that y'all have. I am coming with perspective of what could happen, what some options are that could happen based on things that I've seen and things that I've gone through myself. Okay. And again, I ain't gonna get into too much now. Okay. But it's a couple things that's probably happening right now. One, it's probably a simultaneous police investigation, fraternity investigation, and a school investigation. And I'm just assuming this ain't set in stone. This is just what I assume may be happening. Right? The police, somebody passed away. You already know. They trying to figure out what exactly happened, which would mean interviews, collecting any evidence, cell phone, all of that. Because look, once the cops get involved, baby, hey, it's first 48 out here. Okay. Simultaneously, because it appears this happened on behalf of an organization, I don't know how it works with if the fraternity is waiting on the police investigation, or if they have to, or if they can start their own investigation. But in a lot of cases, and my information is dated because I don't know what happens right now. I'm just talking about when for the older crowd, the fraternity can launch their own investigation and can start interviewing members, if there is suspected allegations of hazing and things happening. So there probably is the own regional director getting the word down from nationals, to meet up with their advisor and start talking to the people on the yard, to anybody who could possibly be involved, including what it sounds like were the young men online. Hell, if they were even online, we do not have that information. We don't have information to know if they were already pinned, meaning they already are members of the fraternity, if they are IGs, which is interested guys, or interested girls if it was a sorority. We don't know what their current status was at the time of the incident. But regardless, everybody probably getting talked to. The school may be doing their own investigation. The school, depending on what happened, again, because we just on the back end, they could have or may have possibly suspended the students, temporary suspended, like anything goes at this point. I have heard stories of students getting suspended, of them getting completely kicked out, losing credits over less. So personally, I think this gonna get bad for everybody involved or adjacent to this. Now, what do I think is going to happen? Or what do we think? Because I was on TikTok and Instagram, and people got all kind of ideas and been throwing stuff out, whether they were in sororities and fraternities, whether they're not, whether they went to HBCU, didn't, went to PWI, didn't. Everybody got an opinion. And I have to say, again, opinions, yes, they're based on people's specific life experiences, but some people don't know what they're talking about. Some people do. But there could, it could go in way, either way. I have seen people getting suspended from organizations, kicked out of school, chapters shut down for much less. Child, it ain't nothing, especially in this hazing got I was outlawed. I would say, and I'm correct me if I'm wrong, I'm probably off by a couple years. I know people who crossed around 1990, 92 in other organizations, and they were on the brink of between that above ground and below ground hazing, right? In that early 90s. So within that, listen, I've seen all kinds of things happen for much less. Like I said, they could take the charter, which means that chapter is off the yard forever. Ain't no coming back. And if it does come back, child, that be like 50 years down the line where you essentially have to prove why, after all of these years, it's worth bringing the charter back. That has happened. And if y'all listening to this, again, I'm just getting adjacent information with this. I believe the charter may have been taken for the Kappas at Howard. Correct me if I'm wrong. When I was in undergrad, I remember the Kappas at Howard being gone indefinitely. I don't know why. I don't know if that was the case or if they just had a really long suspension. But at the time, them boys was gone. They were off the yard. Okay. Once that happened, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Because not only is it you getting suspended and kicked off the yard, but it's the entire chapter's legacy. Yeah, especially at HBCU. Y'all gotta remember, it's a lot of people who are legacy HBCU graduate and Divine Nine members. People send their kids to HBCUs for a lot of reasons, but it's a lot of Black people who got deep legacy and roots in all of these organizations. And some people send their children specifically to the school. Yes, they want them to graduate, but also they want them to cross the same chapter that they crossed. Child, it be people who great grandmothers crossed that chapter. So if the charter go down, baby, you got alumni going back to when the chapter started on that yard, cussing your ass out. That hey, so that's one thing that could happen. Another thing, they could go to jail. Now, and again, we don't know what happened, and we don't have any information besides young Caleb passing away. But hey, that could be prison time, and that no joke. They could get suspended from school, lose all of their credits. There is just no good option in this situation at all. It also does something on campus with the rest of the organizations because once people got something to look at and once they start an investigation, I'd be willing to bet, and I will be shocked if this doesn't trickle down into an investigation into all of the Greek letter organizations on that campus. Not to say that it is warranted or if other people are doing something, or again, if they even did anything, again, we don't know the information. But if they get an inkling that there is a culture of hazing on campus to the point where somebody is losing their life, baby, they may shut the whole campus down. People are not playing anymore. So I think I saw something. I didn't have time to look it up. They said Joe Biden signed a new hazing law a couple years ago. Baby, listen, you know Joe Biden to throw your ass in jail. He do not care. So this is just an all around unfortunate situation. Now, again, I am not financially active. So I do not know any organization's internal stance or internal conversations around hazing and pledging. And you got to remember, there's some nuances with that because each individual in organizations has their own experience and they have their own viewpoints. So while there is a national stance, some people may personally feel different, not to try to justify anything. I'm just telling y'all, even with policy, if you ask an individual their stance about hazing, pledging, people being paper, and if you're not Greek, paper just means that you didn't have some type of additional underground process. People gonna tell you their own feeling, and it could vary. I do think though, this is going to reignite, if the conversation ever died down, the topic and the discussion around if it's worth having fraternities and sororities crossing an undergrad versus just having them all go alumni chapter, if it's worth even doing that. Again, I don't know. I'll be very interested to see how this turns out, but I predict it's going to be a very long process. This ain't something that you just turn around in a couple days. That just to appease social media, so people can have something to talk about. This is going to take quite some time to come up with. I won't even call it a solution, just a result about or around everything that has happened on that campus or with that organization. It's really unfortunate. Yeah. My heart goes out to that young man, his family. I just can't imagine. That is just terrible. But as we get some updates, especially if it's going to be significant and have a significant effect on Black Greek letter organizations, which I kind of wouldn't be surprised if it does. Y'all know I'm gonna bring it back to Black News with an update. Okay. And I say that, and I'm really sad about it because whether you are in a fraternity or sorority or not, the Divine Nine has had a significant impact on the Black community as far as Black rights, civil rights, women's rights, policy, entertainment, the arts, um, economic. It doesn't matter. BGLOs have done the work, and for this to happen, it's just tragic. It's just tragic. But let me know your thoughts about it. If you have some other information where you think or have an idea of what could happen on that campus, especially as maybe there's another example of something like this that that's happened recently that I just don't know about. Hit me up. Let me know your thoughts. You can find me at Cornelia on social media. Another tragic thing that happened was this past weekend was the passing of R&B neo soul singer Angie Stone. Angie Stone was traveling in a sprinter with her band and other people after a performance in Alabama and was hit by an 18-wheeler. The sprinter flipped over multiple times and she passed away. So condolences to Angie Stone. Tragic. Like stuff like, life is so precious. Life is so fragile. You could be living life walking around one day and then the next it's just a different story. So hearing about that as far as in me, everybody, anybody who worked with her, it's just a complete shock. And nothing as you expect but an outpouring of wonderful stories and beautiful messages, paying respects to her. But one thing I am happy that happened, and again, none of this is a happy moment. It's all very tragic and sad. But I'm glad people started to remember how dope and talented Angie Stone is and was. Right? Again, it's unfortunate that happened under these circumstances. But I turned on and I turned on my Apple Music and put that Angie Stone on. Child, Angie was jamming. Same with they said her Spotify streams went up by the thousands, the 100,000s, and it really, got me to thinking. And I'm sure other people thinking this, especially as it relates to Black music and Black creativity and Black art. The neo soul genre is I would say that is the most one of the most talented and creative movements we've had in a while. Because it's not often that a genre offshoot is created, right? And maybe it is. Maybe I'm missing something. But when hip hop started, we had hip hop. I don't necessarily think up until recently with like drill and trap, there aren't many offshoots of hip hop that were as significant and impactful than neo soul being an offshoot of R&B. Same with like rock, jazz, dance, neo soul. I'm just gonna name the artists, right? And I'm just gonna name them: Maxwell, Angie Stone, Erica Badu, Bilal, Music Soul Child, India Irie. John Legend was neo soul at one point. Remember to Get Lifted, baby? That was John Legend was neo soul. Kendrick, like there was a whole, D'Angelo, that group of artists. Jill Scott was probably one of the most special groups in trailblazers. Anthony Hamilton of a genre that we've seen in a long time, and Angie Stone was one of the artists, one of the writers, the producer. She was one of the people leading that charge and leading that genre and introducing that subset of R&B back to Black people and to the world. So, just rest in peace to Angie Stone, her family, her friends, people who knew her, worked with her. Yeah, this is tragic and it's a big loss. So again, much respect and much love to Angie, especially as it relates to being one of the original, I would say, mothers of neo soul. Hit me up and let me know your thoughts about it. If you have any special thoughts or moments about Angie, um, yeah, let me know. You can find me at Cornelia on social media. I carved out some time on this episode to talk about the Academy Awards, aka the Oscars. Y'all know I love me some award shows. put it on my docket to discuss because people were nominated, didn't know what was going to happen. You kind of can predict because of what has happened throughout the entire award season run. But those people were nominated. It was Coleman Domingo was nominated. Cynthia Erivo. Yeah, it was like three, four black people. But child, that thing was born and only one black person won, which was the gentleman who won for the best costume design for Wicked. He is the first black male designer to win in that category. That's only the second black person ever besides or behind Ruth Carter, who won 2 times for styling Black Panther. Shout out to Hampton University. Okay. The legendary Ruth Carter. And his name is Paul Tazewell. He won. Child. Outside of that, it was boring. Like y'all, it was boring. So I'm not gonna really discuss that. Okay. I'm going to discuss I'm going to bring up one topic and kind of segue it into something else because it's been some discourse happening and we got to talk about it even if we can't really get to the bottom of it. I was on social media and I didn't know why black Americans, seem to be very upset with Cynthia Erivo. People were essentially saying, I'm not going to support it. I don't care. She know what she did. Nope, ain't gonna happen. Nope, black British people, we ain't, no, they black British. I did not know what was happening with that or was reminded until probably this past weekend. Apparently, years ago, Cynthia Erivo tweeted something when she was very young, saying something about Black American culture. But what I've been seeing with that simultaneously observing on social media, there seems to be some discourse between the Black American diaspora and the Black British diaspora. I don't know where it started, but many things seem to reignite the flames of the discourse. And one thing in particular that happened, in addition to this whole, Cynthia thing being a reminder to some people, child, Keith Lee is a food blogger he started on TikTok. He goes and tries people food and rates it from 1 to 10. Became wildly popular, donates money back. It's a good time. Keith Lee went to London and was trying British food. The British food wasn't doing well until he started trying Caribbean and African food within Great Britain. But the Black British people were angry. But while that was happening, again, there was always conversations about comparing Black American culture and discussions about how Black people here in America don't have a culture. We don't know where we're from. We every other people have soul food. We haven't done anything. It's just a mess, and honestly, it's stupid. It's really dumb. There I wish there was a world or a reality or a multiverse. Okay, we're gonna take it to Avengers. I wish there was an alternate timeline where all of the Black people across the world got on the same page and understood who and what the enemy is and what is being driven, used as a wedge to divide us. I wish we could all see that and come together and unite against the BS. I, y'all, for Black people to be so connected and to have similar experiences on each continent that we're on, and to have so much insight again about our own experiences, for us to not be able to get on the same page, it's really becoming extremely disappointing at this point, especially because no, we have access to all of the information. British people can look up and research what happened here. They can look up and research the transatlantic slave trade. They can look up and research post Reconstruction, Jim Crow, civil rights, war on drugs, to now. Black Americans can research all of those things as it relates to African colonialism, the scramble for Africa, Black people being taken from or being persuaded to go from the Caribbean to Europe to build up their economy and their infrastructure, being paid a fraction of the cost as the white people there. Black South Americans, Black Brazilians can research all of those things themselves and find the common denominator. But we still haven't, and I don't think we ever will, which is so disheartening, especially in times where, again, you have so much happening in the world and you have so much chatter about who's doing what to who and who's hurting. Baby, white supremacy ain't got to divide us. We doing it ourselves. And I know that's oversimplified, but it's getting to the point where we're going to have to put the BS aside, pick up a book, read it, and then get on the same page. I don't know how I can help in doing that, but it needs to be done. One thing I do be asking too, because we don't know what is being taught anywhere. Child, we're not taught our own history in this country. Okay? American school, hey, don't get me started on the school system. Education here, hey. But I always wonder, because in our world history class, they be teaching us the basics, right? They're going to teach us about Napoleon and them. They don't teach us, they don't get in the weeds and teach us about what was really going on during apartheid. We might hear about Nelson Mandela, but they're not teaching the real. They're not talking about the colonizers came to South Africa and what they did. So I always wonder, what else, what are other people learning about each other? I wish that we would be taught the intricate history of Black citizens and what happened in South America and Brazil. I wish Black Britons and British people in general were taught about everything that happened here and not just Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks. But we are not. So it is our responsibility now not to get on the internet and sound like complete dumbasses when we say something and when we assume. It is our responsibility to do our research before we speak. Before we say people don't got no culture, before we say y'all didn't go through anything, before we say that they say that about any of us, whoever, it is now our responsibility to not be stupid. And I implore all of us to follow that, follow suit. I know I fall short sometimes, but I'm doing my best. Let's command and demand that others do that as well. If you are a Black News listener, let's start researching what was the real Black experience and what is the real Black history on these other continents. What happened in Europe? What happened in Africa? What happened in the Caribbean? What happened in South America? Hell, what happened here? I'll do you one better. Child, what happened to the Black people in Canada? What was they going through? Because a lot of people don't even know that. But hit me up. That's an ongoing discussion. It's something that's just on my spirit because I'm tired of seeing it. But let me know your thoughts about it. You can find me at Cornelia on social media. On this week's episode of Black News, we talked about the tragic situation involving a young man on Southern University's campus that passed away this past week. We also talked about the tragic passing of neo-soul singer and writer Angie Stone and the impact overall of neo-soul music. We briefly talked about the Oscars being really boring this weekend and also the recent or current or ongoing discourse between Black Americans and Black British people online. Hit me up. Let me know your thoughts about all of these topics, some or none, and I'll check back with you guys next time. That's it for this week's episode of Black News, y'all. Thanks again for supporting the podcast by sharing, liking, subscribing, and rating 5 stars on your favorite podcast app. To find more information about me, you can check me out at Cornelia on social media, as well as on my website, which is cornelia.com. And as always, thanks for supporting, and I'll be back next week with new topics and a new episode.